Hi guys, how you doing? Nick Jennison, Big Guitar Interactive Magazine, GI+. It's Monday, and the thing that happens on Mondays is happening. We are having some issues with our connection once again. Can't quite believe it, but it's one of these things. We were assured it was resolved. It apparently is not resolved. We're gonna try our best to see what we can do with this today. If you guys are receiving me, let me know. If you are just seeing a pixelated mess right now, let me know too. Hey, what can you do? We're gonna try our best with what we've got. Hi guys, Nick Jennison for Guitar Interactive GI+. It's Monday, we're gonna hang out, we're gonna talk about the guitar. Today, we are continuing our discussion on all things shred related. Specifically, we are continuing our shred primer on the subject of tapping. Now, this is one of those subjects that gets often, I guess mistakenly referred to as like an advanced technique. It's one of these things that people go, ooh, that's difficult, you shouldn't play with that, you should stay in your lane, young guitar player. But in reality, truth of it is, the tapping thing, it's not as hard as you might imagine. So we got some stuff going on here real quick. It's a little max headroom, but it's okay. It's choppy in potato print. I can see you, blurry, all that sort of stuff. Man, it's very annoying, but we're going to try our best with what we've got. Stick with us. Hopefully it's going to clear up. It's been behaving itself literally all day, and now it's decided to play ball. It's very, very annoying, but never mind. We'll try our best. So anyway. Is the audio coming through clear? You guys let me know if you can hear me nice and clearly. Let's see. We'll see what we're getting. If it's working for you guys, then brilliant. If it's not, we'll just have to do what we can do. If you guys bear with me just one hot second, I'm going to jam, but I'm also going to take a quick look at what's going on with our connection and see what's going on here. It's not just Nick's fingers that are blurry today. Well, they're kind of blurry too, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, let's have a quick jam and let's have a look at the connection. Hear me nice and clearly. Let's see. We'll just right, well, we're back in the land of the living. Fingers crossed. This is as bad as it's going to get. You guys are going to have to, unfortunately, if you can stick with me, I'll greatly appreciate it, because we've got some good stuff coming today. It is quite annoying that the internet connection is letting us down, but at least the audio is okay, and that's what counts. And hopefully you guys can be able to see what I'm doing at least reasonably clearly, because we got some good stuff for you. So, before we do, a little bit of housekeeping. If you're enjoying what we're doing here, you want to help us get these connection issues resolved in my studio, I've put some acoustic panels up and everything, but apparently that's not going to affect the connection at all, but it looks nice. You want to help us keep the lights on, you can go to the URL down there, go and grab some guitar lessons from GI+. You can give this video a thumbs up on whatever platform you happen to be watching on. We really do appreciate it, as does the algorithm. So, on we crack. Now let's take a quick look at the comment section, see how everybody's doing. We have PJ first in the house. PJ is through the door, first out of all of our returning streamers. Says, hi Nick and all, hope you're well. Timothy Appling is in the house. Timothy, good to have you on board. Marcine is here. I'm going to shred on my air guitar today, but can't miss the stream again. Well, air guitar's perfectly fine for shredding on as well, young man. So there's nothing wrong with air guitars. To be honest, truthfully, there is actually something to be said for, even if you can't get hold of your guitar, just consuming some guitar content is good for you, because like it for want of a better word, it kind of triggers that kind of learning thing that goes on in your brain, these learning centers. So yeah, even just watching with your air guitar is going to get you some results, I think. Hi PG, think you'll see your king of the hill again this week for sure. Who else do we have? Timothy Appling, we love having Timothy Appling in the house. Let's see who else we have. Response Audio is here, good to see you. Sadly woke up to the first snowfall of the year. Oh my goodness, right, well we're not quite that bad here in the UK yet. It's pretty cold, especially where I am right by the sea. It's it's pretty cold, but it's not that cold. It's not snowfall cold just yet, but Canada, famously cold. Who else do we have? Mark Crandall is in here. Good to see you tuning in from SoCal, where I'm guessing is sunny because it's always sunny. Foghornish in the house. Evening Nick and my fellow Axemen. My band Usurper released the EP Hand of the Usurper last Friday. It's on the NWOTHM channel. Please check it out. Be kind to my friend. I'm definitely going to check that out. Have we played on a bill together? I'm sure I've played with Blitzkrieg on a bill with Usurper. If not, maybe we should make that happen. Who else do we have? Sacred Godslayer is in the house. Rory Lisman is here. Rory, it's good to see you. Who else do we have? We got some other friends in the house. Here's a new one. RastaBen95 says, just caught up with Shred Primer 3. Does it do harm being here live or before? Nope, it absolutely does not do any harm being here live. You're going to do just fine with what we have on the go today, I promise you. And Timothy Appling's answered that question for us. Grab your axe and join us today. Remember to watch the previous ones at your convenience. For sure. I like that a lot. Who else do we have? Timothy Appling. Oh, so generous. Really, really appreciate that. Timothy Appling is donating to us. I didn't even know you could donate on these things, but that is really good of you, Timothy. I appreciate that a lot. Phil Jones is in the house. Helmet Strap is here as well. I may not be a Shred Master. These sessions have noticeably improved my playing. Really enjoying them. I am glad to hear that. Really glad to hear that. Phil Jones is saying the same. Appreciate that an awful lot. Chris Brown is in the house. I've just watched you playing live on Instagram. It sounded great. Really, really cool. Who else do we have? So we got some comments on the connection. It's still a little blurry. Very, very irritating. But, you know, we'll try our best. We'll crack on for as long as we possibly can. Michael says, amazing teacher. Michael, that's very kind of you. I really do appreciate that. Really appreciate that a lot. So anyway, listen. Let's get into the meat of today's session before the internet decides to completely boot us off, which is the wonderful world of tapping. Now, you may have had a well-meaning guitar player express to you in the past that tapping is something that is advanced and is challenging and difficult and is like an extended technique, if that makes sense. It is kind of an extended technique in a sense. It's really not that hard, and it's a very good way to get some I'm going to say some instant wins as far as the speed thing goes into your playing. But first, what we have to do is we have to establish our terms. We have to discuss what tapping is and what it's not. Now, we're going to start with what it's not. This is the important bit. Let's go to the close-up cam. Let's go to me and the guitar's neck. I have got these shots so crisp, and the upload speed is destroying that crispness, unfortunately. But if you guys can at least see what's going on, then hopefully we're going to be okay. So anyway, tapping is not what the name would suggest, which is tapping on our fretboard. Now, if we do this very quickly, if we take our middle finger and we were to tap it onto the high E string in the space of the 12th fret, we would get something that sounds a bit like this. This is what happens when we tap with our finger. If we would tap our fingers on a desk, if we were to tap on somebody's door, if we were to tap on somebody's shoulder, this is the connotations of the word tap. Now, tapping is not that. Tapping is best thought of instead as hammer-ons and pull-offs with the right hand. You might be saying, well, Nick, that's a distinction without a difference. You know, what's the deal there? Well, the reason this is important is that tap notes, like hammer-ons and pull-offs, and like all the legato notes that we play with our left hand, have a duration to them. And if we think about this purely as a tap, and I've seen guitarists do this, we end up with these notes that are staccato by their very nature, because we're tapping on the fretboard like this, and we end up with these staccato notes that sound like this. Another issue that comes along with this line of thinking as far as the tap goes, this tapping movement, is that the tap only really deals with the hammer-on portion of the tapping technique, which is the sounding of this note. But as we know from our legato studies, tapping, well, hammering on and pulling off rather, they go hand in hand with each other, and in order to keep a long stream of good sounding notes, we need not just strong hammer-ons but also strong pull-offs. So very quickly, if we were to go back to our close-up cam, if we were to tap, and I were to go to a clean sound, let's say, I get some very loud sounding hammer-ons, but because I'm not doing anything to make the note below it come out, I get some pretty weedy sounding pull-offs. Now this is, again, a common thing that I hear a lot of guitar players do when they first broach this tapping thing, and I think a lot of it is down to the name. So we're going to get rid of the name, even though we're calling it tapping, we can really think about it more as just hammer-ons and pull-offs, but done with this hand. So we're going to do some of these together, right? We're going to take our 12th fret on the high E string. As far as fingers, I'm going to encourage you to use either your index finger or your middle finger from your right hand. I like the middle finger. You could use ring finger. You could use pinky finger if you wanted. You could also use your pick, but that's another thing entirely. We're going to stick with just one of these two fingers, and you can pick which one. It's either going to be this one or this one. Excuse me, the algorithm is going to down, what's the word? It's going to hide us for that hand gesture, but it's this finger or it's this finger. You pick, right? So we're going to take this finger. This is my preferred finger of choice for single finger tapping lines. We'll get into multi-finger tapping things later. What we're going to do is we're going to do a hammer-on using the definition of hammer-on that we've been working with for the last, I don't know how long, on these streams, which is we are going to forcefully strike the string so that the string makes impact with the fret. It's not the sound of the finger going onto the string that makes the sound. It's the sound of the string going onto the fret. Let's treat ourselves to some gain and let's see how that behaves. So with our right hand, we're going to get this. Let's try it one more time. And what we should be able to do is leave our finger there, like we would if we did a hammer-on, to get a note that is as long or as short as we want it to be. Now, if you saw me on my Instagram earlier on today, I was posting some warm-up clips, and I've been playing with this cool idea of muting tapped notes, where I play like a long-held tap bend and then like stop it dead. Just something I've been messing around with. That's something for another day. But we have our tap note. Our next mission is to sound a note that is below our tap. And the way we're going to get this is by doing a pull-off, much like we do with our left hand, using a brushing or a plucking motion. And we've talked about this before. We talked about the two kinds of pull-offs where we can either do a big, powerful pluck like this, or we can do a smooth brush like this. Either is fine for what we're doing here, but there is an interesting thing that we can do with our tapping where we can start to introduce some plucks while still maintaining some speed. We'll get into that later. That's more of a dynamics thing, and that's an interesting facet of what this is going to be all about. But for the time being, we're going to do a hammer-on where the string strikes the fret, and then we're going to use the friction of our finger to brush, which is going to cause the next note below us to ring out. In this case, I'm going to hold down the 10th fret on the E string. We should be able to get this. And we should be able to do this with any duration of note that we want. We should be able to do it with fast notes. We should be able to do it with long, slow notes, because it's just the same as hammer-ons and pull-offs. It's exactly the same as hammer-ons and pull-offs. Now, what we haven't done here is delved into the classic Eddie Van Halen tapping lick. That's another story for another day. If you want to learn that one, we'll get to that. But this is something that is going to help us really kind of like start to move with this stuff. So let's throw a backing track on. We're going to go to our E Aeolian Big Hair backing track, available on the Guitar Interactive YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed to us, give us a subscribe. We'd love to have you over there, and we can let you know when we're about to go live. We can also keep you up to date with new backing tracks, new product reviews, new interviews, all that good stuff. So drop us a sub if you're watching on the Guitar Interactive YouTube. But here's our backing track. We're in the key of E minor rather. E Aeolian specifically. We're going to play some taps, some hammer-ons with our right hand, and then our brush pull-offs from 12 to 10. It's going to go like this. And let's just see where we get to. This should feel comfortable and easy. Let me know in the comments if this is something you can do easily enough, if it's not causing you any trouble. It shouldn't do, I wouldn't imagine. Hopefully, that's going to be just fine for you. Now, let's speed it up a little bit. Let's try doing this. And again, notice how long and even each of these notes are. We're not doing this. The tap note has a duration. It's like any other note, just like a hammer-on and pull-off. Hopefully that's starting to make sense and that's starting to feel pretty good. Now, we're going to move away from that for a second and we're going to start to construct some lines with this, because what we can do with our tapping, this is one of the real benefits to this. Now, here's one from Cragger Tom. Cragger Tom says, I pull off upwards habitually. That's not a problem. If you pull off upwards, that's fine too. It doesn't really matter. If we pull off upwards, that's okay. If you pull off downwards, that's okay too. What I mean by that is, for you guys who aren't necessarily up on this terminology, we get the distinction between whether we pull off in this direction or whether we pull off in this direction. I don't think it makes a difference. I think it's just a question of where you prefer to angle your hand. If you tend to prefer to have a little more weight in the thumb, then you're going to pull off downwards because of the direction the hand is pointing. If you prefer to have a little bit more weight in the heel of the hand, you're going to pull off upwards because of the direction the hand is pointing. It doesn't make a difference. There are people tapping successfully with either strategy. I think I just started tapping down over because that's the way Steve Vai does it, and I copied a lot of stuff off Steve Vai when I was learning this sort of thing. But anyway, let's get ourselves into the realm of a useful lick that we can play. Now, we're going to begin with something that resembles the classic Eddie Van Halen tapping pattern. Now, this is something that we can really start to cook with when we get there. Here's one from Live to Play Guitar. Very, very good comment. It says, thumb on the neck is a good habit to get into, I think. I agree, until we start to get to multiple fingers and all that sort of thing. But we'll get to that in a second. But you know what, actually, now that you mention it, I'm actually going to back out and I'm going to actually address this thumb on the neck thing. So, if you are having trouble hitting the right string on the right fret at the right time, what you might do is you might just pop your thumb gently, don't really press it down, but gently on either the back of the neck or on the top of the neck, like this. You can see a little mark from, that is from hook grip, is what that is. If any of you are familiar with my exploits in powerlifting, that is an injury from deadlifting. It doesn't hurt, it's just a big black mark on my thumbnail. But anyway, if you pop your thumb on the top of the neck, what happens with this is we get a proprioceptive cue, much like our thumb on the back of the neck with our left hand, that just helps us figure out where we are with our tapping finger. Now, again, this doesn't really matter whether you tap with index finger, whether you tap with middle finger, whether you pull off upwards, whether you pull off downwards. I think having some kind of tactile cue is useful, but what some people do as well is they use the arm as a tactile cue. It doesn't really matter, as long as you have some contact with the guitar's body. If you're finding this weird, you might try thumb on the neck. If you're finding thumb on the neck weird, you might try it without. You might try it with pinky fingers under the guitar's fretboard. That can work too. You might try gripping the neck either side, like Eddie tended to do, where he'd have this kind of setup where he would play with like fingers under and also thumb on the top. It's kind of very secure and very easy to navigate way of doing this sort of stuff. I like thumb on top and middle finger for the tap, pulling off downwards. That's just preference. Anyway, on to the realms of licks. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start with probably the easiest lick that we can play, which is the classic Eddie Van Halen tapping sequence. Now here, we're going to play 12 on the high E string with our tapping finger. We're going to pull off to our first finger on fret number 7. It's going to give us this. Hopefully that should make a lot of sense. That should be easy enough. So we tap and we pull off. We're going to do it again, but this time what we're going to do is we're going to follow that up with a hammer on. I'm going to encourage you to use your pinky finger here because we're going to need our other fingers for other stuff onto fret number 10. So it's tap, pull off, hammer onto fret number 10. Now this is a 3-note sequence that we can cycle to our heart's content. It is a little bit cliche. In fact, it's extremely cliche, and you probably shouldn't bust this one out at the gig unless you're playing You Really Got Me, or you're playing Eruption. If you're playing Eruption, that's fine, that's allowed. If you're not, I maybe wouldn't bust this one out at the gig for a variety of reasons, because it just sounds a little bit sort of my first tapping lick. But if it is your first tapping lick, then this is a great way to get to grips with it. So, let's try it again. What we have together is we have tap, pull off, hammer on, and we get this. This should feel pretty comfortable, certainly at this kind of speed. Now what you find with guitar players is we can very easily start to speed this up, and we turn into this fast flurry of notes. It sounds pretty cool, right? It sounds pretty cool. I like that a lot. Now, what we can do to make this a little more interesting is we can start to introduce some more notes. So the easiest way to do this is to do a tap, and then a pull off to 10, pull off to 7, hammer back on, which gives us this. Now this is a little less easy to get up to cooking speeds because our pinky finger has to work twice as hard, but it does have a slightly less cliche sound, I would say. This is akin to the tapping arpeggios in the solo from Crazy Train, for example. So I tend to think about this as the Randy Rhoads pattern. This. Whereas this is the classic Eddie Van Halen pattern. We're going to go many steps beyond this today, but that's a good place to begin. So, if we try this Randy pattern, where we tap, pull off again, and hammer back on, up to speed, we get something like this, where we have now, hopefully that should feel pretty comfortable because it's not the most difficult pattern in the world. It's kind of okay. Once we settle into it, it's pretty good. Now, here's a fun thing we can do with this. Because we're introducing this extra finger into the mix, we can start to bring more fingers in on the left hand, or we can get more fingers onto any given string than we'd be able to do if we were just playing with our left hand alone. Now, we could do some crazy stretchy stuff, these big rusty coolie 4-note per string shapes, if that's something we wanted to do, but a very easy way to get some of this on the go is with some tapping. Now, here's what we might do. We might do the following. Now, we might play our tap on 12, we might continue with this note here, but we might add one in the middle of these guys. So this might be a good choice. Now, why is that a good choice? Well, we're playing in E Aeolian. There's our E. There's a flat 7. There's our 5. There's our flat 7 again. We need to add in the flat 6. How do we know it's the flat 6? How do we know the flat 6 is what we need to add in? Well, we've got a course for that. We've got a course called Mastering Modes Part 1. If you want to know a little bit more about selecting notes to choose from when you're playing these licks, then this, dear friends, is the course that you need. This is Mastering Modes Part 1. It's available as part of your GI Plus subscription. When we come back, we're going to extend our tapping lick. Modes. What are modes? How do I use them? When do I use them? Well, modes are one of the things that the pros use to add excitement and colour to their guitar parts, and there is no reason why you can't use them too. Now, for some reason, people, especially certain online guitar teachers, love to make modes seem complicated and scary, but I'm here to tell you they really, really aren't. And in fact, if you know the pentatonic scale, I can show you how to play modes with just 2 extra notes. In this course, I'll show you how to play killer sounding guitar solos using modes without any of the mystery. You'll learn how to play musical sounding solos all across the neck in any key, crucially without sounding like you're just running up and down scales. So, if you're ready to take this next step with me, click the link to find out more. So that's a look at Mastering Modes Part 1. That is one of our courses that's available as part of your GI Plus subscription, along with I don't know how many, just a crazy amount of material in there. Our subscribers who are GI Plus members will attest, I'm sure, to how much good stuff is in there. If you want more lessons like this one, hey, go down there, grab some. Now, I think, all being well, I think our connection appears to be clearing up a little bit. I did a little bit of wizardry while that trailer was running, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that is the end of the blurry connection segment of this stream. Fingers crossed. Fingers in the very, very, very crossed position. So anyway, on we continue. Guys, let me know if the picture is cleared up for you. If it's working, then that's brilliant. If it's not, hey, not the end of the universe. So we'll get on just fine without it. So anyway, the tapping lick that we just started playing there, we discussed this idea of including this flat sixth rather. Hey, we got some HD. Look, it looks like you guys can see how nice this shot is and how crisp this fretboard is. I've spent forever getting in focus, only for the internet to upset us with its connection, but that's fine. That's neither here nor there. So anyway, moving away from that for a moment. So our second finger is going to go down here on fret number 8. That is going to be our flat 6, which is going to give us an Aeolian sound immediately. So we have an E, we have our flat 7th, our flat 6, and then our 5. You might think about this as tap, pinky finger, middle finger, index finger. Cranky Tom says, I can see the monkey again. The monkey is the star of the show. I like my monkey. He doesn't have a name. He needs a guitar style name. If you guys can think of a good name for the monkey, drop it in the comments, right? We'll name him whatever the best name is, I think. So anyway, we have this line where we'll go tap, pinky, middle, index, and then we can come back up with the same notes. This is a 6-note sequence, which gives us this. Now that we can absolutely kook with. We can go crazy with that. So let's take that sequence and let's see if we can have some fun with this. So anyway, we're going to start right here. We tap on our 12th fret, pull off, pull off, pull off, hammer back on. Okay, we got it. Let's try it a little faster. Let's try going like this. I'm going to stay on here a little while to give us a chance to get used to this little sequence. Okay, nice. Let's try going a little faster. Let's try going like this. Now, all being well, that should feel pretty okay. We don't need to go any faster than that to get some good stuff out of this. We can go faster if we want. We can start going like this. We can go. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you should be able to play that a lot faster than you thought you were going to be able to. Now, I want to know in the comments, once you got the sequence under your fingers, was that much easier than you thought it was going to be? Let me know in the comments, right? Normally, this is the way this goes. Normally, people hear something like that and go, blimmin' hell, that's fast. But the reality of it is, it's actually not that fast because every individual finger, like no one finger is working terribly hard in this tapping context. And this is one of the reasons we can get so fast with tapping stuff, is because each finger gets a lot of time to rest, and our whole left hand even gets a break somewhere in the process where we have our tap, the left hand's basically not doing anything at this point. It gets a chance just to chill out for a split second, regain its strength, regain its coordination. It doesn't take long for your fingers. Just a little rest makes all the difference in the world. So if we go back to our tapping sequence, we've got this. Now, that is a very cool sequence. We like that a lot. Now, what we might think about this as is we might think about it, going back to our sequences from previous sessions, we might think about it as a low, middle, high on our 3-note per string sequences with a tap on top. So we might call it tap, high, middle, high. Tap, high, middle, high. Dead easy. Now, you will know from our sequencing exercises that we can take this sequence and then we can apply that anywhere on our guitar's fretboard. For example, let's try doing exactly the same thing But when we're ready to, we're going to make a jump to another series of notes. What we might do is we might jump to a series of notes that has this note as the low note, this note as the middle note, and this note as the high note. And then we might tap here, or even here. We can change between the two. What's that going to look like? Well, it might go like this. We might have tap on 14, pull off to 12, 10, 8, 10. If we want to, we can move our tapping finger up to 15. We can go back down to 14. When we're ready, we can slide just the left hand down to our previous position. And then we can let the right hand join it when we feel ready. Let me show you what that might look like in practice. Check this out. So we're going to go fairly slow. But what I might get is something like this. Where I live in this position for a while. And then I move positions. Move my tapping finger. Keep the tapping finger where it is. Move positions on the left hand. Let's do that at speed. Let's move it all up and down the guitar's fretboard and show you what this looks like when it's all kind of like at its logical endpoint. More stuff at the end. Wound up a note that I didn't like and I decided just to go into all sorts of notes just to mask the fact that we ended on a bad one, but that's neither here nor there. So when you see me do this sort of stuff, this is the essence of what this is. It's a sequence. It's not always this sequence. Sometimes I'm changing this. Sometimes I'm tapping twice before I do the left hand. Sometimes I'm doing more time on the left hand before we tap. Whatever. It doesn't really matter. But the point with this is I'm finding pathways through this that are comfortable and that are good sounding. Now, Chris Brown says, you're introducing double taps. I am. That's just kind of a habit. Now, as far as the double tap thing goes, in case anybody's interested, double tap is where we just tap and pull off twice before the left hand does its thing. Surprisingly easy because, again, for that, the left hand is just chilling out while the right hand is doing this double tap. And then while the left hand's working, the right hand is chilling out. So we're almost like passing the ball between our two hands and no one hand has to work terribly hard. So are there wrong notes to play while tapping? Or as long as it sounds good, we can extrapolate that sentence even further we can like extrapolate this even further to are there wrong notes to play full stop? Or as long as it sounds good. Yeah, the rules of what notes are good apply just the same when you're playing with this hand as they would if you're playing with this hand, because they're just notes. Now, it doesn't feel that way because we're using a whole different hand to do it. And people have this whole business of like, oh, well, tapping, you need to learn licks and it's difficult and it's all crazy and stuff. It's really not. It's just an extension of what's going on with your legato playing. Now, we got some really good names coming in for the monkey, by the way, just throwing that out there. Anyway, so returning to our tapping lick. What we discussed last time was we discussed this idea of octaves and the power of octaves and how we're able to take a line and move it in octaves and then play all manner of weird and wonderful lines that we can feel our way through using our octave displacement idea. What that is, if we just quickly go back to it real quick, we'll just quickly go back to the octaves from last week, is where if we were to take something like this, we can repeat that, starting on each of its relative octave notes, which would give us this. And then we had this. And then we had this. So just to recap on that, that gives us 2, 3, 5 on the lowest two strings, 2, 3, 5, 2, 3, 5. and then 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 7, 8, 10, 7, 8, 10. Now, going further with this, right, what we also described is we could do the same thing in the next position up, but what we could do is instead of playing the next position up like this, what's wrong with tapping these notes? We play this. That's pretty cool. Can we then take exactly the same thing and play it in the next octave? Yes, we can. And can we play it on the next octave? Yes, we can. So for this, I'm going to show you a lick that started me down this road of all manner of big, weird, and wonderful tapping stuff. And the lick goes a little like this. That sounds like a lot. There's double taps in there. We don't have to play the double taps. We can play this. I'm going to show you how this works today. Now, you may wind up playing this completely differently to me, but the principles are what's important here. We're just taking a single sequence, we're moving it through a bunch of positions, and we're using tapping to disguise some of the string changes. So, let's go back to our first sequence. Our first sequence was 12, 10, 8, 7, and back up. Let's live here for a little while. And then when we're ready, we'll play exactly the same notes on the next string up. Exactly the same notes on the next string up. That's our B string. When I say up, I mean towards the ceiling, so I'm used to teaching 6-year-olds. So, did that for 12 years. The old habits die hard. So we're going straight to the B string with exactly the same frets, which will give us this. Now, that transition may feel challenging, but here's the fun thing about this. You don't need to transition on any particular note. You can transition on whatever note feels comfortable. You can transition at the bottom, you can transition with the tap. That would work fine too. We can play this. We can transition with the pinky finger hammer-on. Do that again. You can transition with the middle finger hammer-on. It actually doesn't matter, and at speed you're not really going to hear the difference. It's more about just finding something that feels good. So let's do those. Let's transition between our E string and our B string. Then we're going to move this further down the fretboard. Even if you just play this lick, this is a really cool lick to begin with, right? So anyway, once again, we're going to go like this. Transition. That's a little artificial. Let's go a little faster. Let's go. And ready? Transition. Now you can spend as long on each of these strings as you like. You can go quick, you can go slow. You can play just a tiny bit. You can play one each. You can play loads on each. Doesn't really matter, right? Now the cool thing about this is, again, no one finger works terribly hard. So each finger gets a little bit of a break as we transition strings. It masks the transition. It also allows us to play a full 30% faster because we've introduced a fourth finger into the mix. We have 3 fingers, we've gone to 4. It's 33.3% faster. Not an accurate claim, but even still, it's a fun one. Panu Papixidis is asking, where's the tab? There is no tab because the principle is what we're trying to deal with here. It's a lick, yes, but this is more about figuring this stuff out. So what I don't want to do is give you a tab and have you just learn exactly what I've done here, because I want you to kind of feel your own way through this. So once we have this lick, we've got this lick under our fingers, and that's feeling good, we can then start to transition to the next octave down. Now, a next octave, if we go back to our close-up cam again, is going to be from here to here. Now, how do we know that's our next octave? Well, if we take this E note here, if we were to play it as a Wes Montgomery octave shape, this business, that is our octave. Our octave on the E and G strings is 2 strings apart, 3 frets apart. 2 strings apart, 3 frets apart. Are you, many symbols, part of a cult? No. Anyway, I'm maybe part of the cult. But not a cult. I wish I had a white falcon like Billy Duffy. Very cool. Anyway, cults aside, maybe the cult of Shred. Maybe Shred is a cult. Who knows? Anyway, I'm working with a band called Crowley, who are occult. Does that count? Anyway, never mind. Jokes aside. But an interesting question nonetheless, I think. Anyway, so we've done our transition. We've worked out that this note and this note are an octave apart. If we take our octave here to here, all we need to do is hang the same pattern on this right here. And then, surprise, surprise, we can do the same thing on the next string, which gives us this. Literally the same thing, right? So what we've got? We've got this. Now that's a big jump, but notice how what we can do here. So we can move this hand, and then we've got a bit of time to move the other hand. So we can go like this. There's our next octave. Where's our next octave? Well, we played this note. We play this note. We tap this note. We tap this note. We hang the same sequence of notes off this note. What does it give us? It gives us this. All together, we get the following. We have transition to the B string. We're going to transition to that 9th fret on the G string next. Ready for the big transition? I'll slow it down. There it is. Which we can then transition to our D string in the same position. Our next transition, this is a slightly less difficult one, is going to be from this 9th fret note to our 7th fret note on the A string. Big win. E string is flat, but you get the idea. Now, that at speed sounds fantastic, like this. So I'll set it in the context of a bit of a solo. I'll do something a bit more melodic, and we'll use this as a flash of speed to show you how this can wow folks and turn heads. So if I go... Let's put it here. What a great way to finish a solo, especially in like an 80s kind of context. Oh man, that little bit of flash is just gold. It's really, really great. Now, we don't need to spend as little time in each of these positions as that. You can really eat out in these positions, and you can spend as long as you like there. So let's try that again in the context of a solo, but just spending longer in each position. And now we sound like every good 80s shredder that we love, and I love 80s shredders. It's a little bit George Lynch. It's not quite full on enough to be Steve Lynch. There's a bit of Red Beach in there. It's loads of fun. It's very Steve Vai if you tap with just the right sort of thing. Rasta Ben 95 says, going to the neck pickup for tapping, big smiley face. I love the neck pickup for tapping because it sounds all woodly as opposed to wadly. I realise that's not a technical term, but the gist for this is the neck pickup has a really nice, clean, smooth ooh sound, whereas our bridge pickup has this really open gah kind of vibe. Now this is another interesting deal with tapping, and this is where we get into the realms of Ed. So I'm going to try not to do the whole thing because a career highlight of mine was when we were doing one of these streams and Marcin challenged me to play Eruption. I hadn't played Eruption for ages. He challenged me to play it, and we got a copyright strike because apparently we were using the original audio. And I'm like, yes, mission accomplished. But one of my little party tricks that I like to pull out for Eruption is I like to try and get the sound of the phaser without using a phaser. If that sounds so dumb, right? But I like to get the sound of the phaser without using the phaser. So what does that sound like? Well, the phaser is that wow, wow sound. And if we do the Eruption tapping, if we do it like this, and we go, well, we keep everything kind of even. If I start to manipulate how hard I'm pulling off, I can get to go from this to this. Now it's not exact, but what it highlights is oh, here's a cool one from Chris Brown. It says Steve Vai solo in Fool for Your Lovin'. Yeah, you know what it is? It's really Steve Vai. It is so Steve Vai. Like, I pinched so much of this tapping stuff from Steve Vai, and that is a fantastic solo, by the way. So anyway, fantastic album, very underrated. I'm a big Whitesnake fan, and I'm a bit of a John Sykes fanboy, but that album with Steve Vai, really underrated, really chronically underrated. So anyway, going back to this now, we've discussed at length, this is one of my favourite things about tapping. We've discussed at length that there are two kinds of pull-offs that we can do. We can do a brush pull-off, which is reliable. It doesn't introduce tension into the hand. It doesn't displace the string. It has a nice, smooth, even sound. We get that by using the friction of our hand to brush the string like this. A little like doing this. Marcin says, I meant no harm. You did no harm. You did no harm at all. It was fantastic. It was just, you set me up for a career highlight, mate. So I'm over the moon. I'm very glad that you said to do that. It was like, play Eruption. I'm like, you know what? For you, you got it. So anyway, brushing the string, very much like doing this. We're not plucking the string like this. We pick it up and pulling it. We're just brushing it. That's how we do most of our pull-offs. The reason for this is it doesn't introduce any tension into the hand. It's nice and easy to do it for long passages. However, there is another kind of pull-off we could do, which is this. Which is more of a Steve Vai kind of thing, I guess. But a whammy bar, that would sound fantastic. If you want that authentic Eddie Van Halen pull-off dive bomb thing, we'll do a pluck pull-off. Now what that is where we physically move the string as if we were plucking it with our right hand. Bop, 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 like that. Now these have a really cool, loud, meowing sound. But they are quite tension-inducing. You can't really... Oh, crikey Moses, that is hard. So I'm trying my best, but that is a difficult thing to do, is to play fast with these pluck pull-offs, because adds so much tension into the hand. However, this is where tapping presents a trump card, because what we can do with tapping, because the right hand is moving so slowly, comparatively, I'm going to play that lick fast again. I want you to pay attention to my right hand. See how fast the right hand is moving. Just focus your attention on the right hand. In fact, to do this, I'm going to go to the two hands cam that we don't normally get to use here. I'm going to tap up here, right? I want you to focus your attention on just the right hand. And play some really fast lines like this. Look at how slowly the right hand's moving. Even on those double taps, there's big periods of time where the right hand's not really doing anything. Plucking difficult, says John Mack. You win the internet. Anyway, this tapping hand is not moving terribly fast at any given point. What this enables us to do is it enables us to take advantage of the pluck style pull-off, where we actually physically grab the string and yank on it and get these really loud pull-off notes. You can hear that popping through my dialogue mic, hopefully. It's a really loud sound. It sounds really cool. We can do this with our tapping licks, and this enables us to manipulate the dynamics of our legato line, in a way that we can't do with just our left hand. So we can get things like this, where we pluck, where we brush, and then we... It reduced some plucks further on. You can hear the string even go slightly sharp. It starts to go brown in a really cool way, right? It's a really interesting thing. It's a fun thing to do, especially on the good old-fashioned Eddie Van Halen tap and bend, with this. That. Again, big tap, pluck, pull off, pluck, pull off again. If we did those with brushes, doesn't have quite the same attitude, doesn't have quite the same gusto behind it. So that's another fun thing we can get with tapping. So how are you going to bed this stuff into your own playing? How are you going to bed this into your vocabulary? Because so far I've showed you a lick, I've showed you some tapping ideas. Well, here's what you're going to do. You are going to throw on a backing track. You're going to take the pathways that we've discovered over the last few sessions together, where we have, you know, we've kind of played around with all of these kind of like 3-note per string patterns, these pathways of high, middles, and lows, these octave displacement ideas. You're going to put it on, you can improvise. And you can improvise looking for cool patterns to get through your 3-note per string scales that you know, your 3-note per string patterns. You're going to look for ways to get through this and just find some things that are fun. Don't be afraid to experiment. And when I say experiment, I mean just think along the lines of, wouldn't it be cool if I tried So that might be, wouldn't it be cool if I tried just 2 notes on this hand? If we had this, for example. That's cool. What if I were to do just 2 notes, but I was to do the high and low notes on this hand, and the middle and low notes on the next string? And now we're Steve Vai. Like, genuinely. I can't reach my wah, but if I could, in fact, I'm going to move, I'm going to get my wah. It's right here. Steve Vai. Right? What have we done? Well, we just got rid of a couple of notes. We put a wah on. Genuinely, right? This is how you bed this stuff into your playing. It's how you develop a personality with this stuff as well. You don't develop personality with this. The way you don't develop personality with this, and the way you don't learn this stuff, and the way you don't make it part of your voice, is just by learning loads of licks. They're fun, but I think it's much more fun to learn some cool ways of navigating through these patterns and then apply it to the patterns in ways that are unique to you. And that's how you develop your voice with this stuff. Anyway, we're going to move on to the Q&A because we did get this awful first part of the stream where we were in like classic potato vision. It was absolutely ridiculous. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a bit longer. So we've gone to, we'll maybe go like an extra 10, 15 minutes compared to where we normally go, just to kind of make up that time for you guys. So if you have questions, we've had some good questions come through already, but if you have questions, drop them in the comments. If you want to know a little bit more about some of the more right-hand heavy stuff, we've got a great course for you that is super shred related. It's called Picking Strategies. It's in Guitar Interactive, it's in GI Plus, guitarinteractivemagazine.com/GI Plus. I am going to show you this. In fact, yeah, I'm going to show you this when we come back. When we come back from this, we'll be answering your questions. So drop your questions down below. You know what? You've seen picking strategies loads. Instead of showing you picking strategies, while on the subject of tapping, I'm going to show you this instead. We have another series of courses that don't get talked about enough in GI Plus, which are our tech sessions. Now, our tech sessions are artist-specific lessons that go into the styles of Zach Wilde, Malmsteen, who we have Joe Bonamassa, we have John Petrucci, several of them. We have Larry Carlton, we have Paul Gilbert, we have Slash, we have David Gilmour, you name it, right? With so many great artists. This is one that I just happen to have loaded in the barrel. I'm going to throw it this way. This is the performance of the Eddie Van Halen tech session that I did a little while ago. It's a cool tech session. I'm a very, very proud of it. I'm a big fan of the tone, if nothing else. But this has got a ton of great tapping in it. So if you want to learn that, you can go to GI Plus, the link down below. Go to Tech Sessions, find the Eddie Van Halen one. While you're there, check out all the others we've got. When we come back from this, we'll be answering your questions. There you go, guys. That is our Eddie Van Halen tech session. That is available as part of your GI Plus membership. John Mack has signed up for GI Plus. It says, sign up for GI Plus now. You got me, Nick. John, I am over the moon to hear that. If you guys want some more lessons like this one, go to the link down below. You can go find them. Anyway, let's move on to your questions. A quick thing with this, by the way, very quickly on the Van Halen tech session. I got to tell you, legitimately, the hardest part about filming that, genuinely the hardest part about filming that whole thing, was getting a take where I got the bit at the end where it goes, where I got that bump in time. I missed that so many times, it's not even funny. It's ridiculous. So anyway, moving on, we got some really cool questions coming in. First from State Regard Slayer, because it's just coming right now. Nick, do you remove one string from the PRS trem? Because they usually ship with 4, but they're very stiff. You know what? I'm going to have a look to find out. Let's see. Nope, got 4 in the back of there. But to be honest, I very, very rarely use the trem at all, because I only use it if I'm doing the Van Halen thing, personally. In Blitzkrieg, Alan does all the trem bar stuff because he's really good at it. I'm not that guy anymore. I used to be a trem fellow when I was younger. I don't know, man. Just it's something that's just fallen from my repertoire. What I generally find with it is I do so much stuff with the volume controls and with the pickup selector. The trem is just kind of in the way, especially on the PRS guitars. I can't get to the pickup selector because the trem bar is there and it gets me annoyed. And I can't even put it back here, like in the dime bag position, because it's still in the way. It's something that kind of bugs me quite a lot. When I did the Van Halen thing, I left it decked. So I generally leave it with 4 springs in, but you can take one out. It works just fine. PRS trems, people really, like PRS are really bad for making it seem like their trems are just made out of wizardry and you should never tweak the setup. You'll be fine. You'll be okay. So anyway, just don't do anything with those 6 saddles under there. Like genuinely, that bit's for real. So more questions. Here we go. Nick grew up playing Ibanez, no trem. I know, right? I don't know when the transition happened. I think it's when I bought my first Les Paul and stopped playing Ibanez for a while because I decided at 25 years old that I was an old man. Been an old man my whole life. But anyway, I'm nearly 40 now. So we got some great questions coming in. Here's a good one from our friend Liv playing guitar. Are you thinking what chord you're on, or is it too fast to think like that? No, if anything, it probably makes it a little easier, the tapping thing, because we have more time to go between our 2 hands. We can think a little bit more clearly about what we're doing because no one hand is working that fast. So if I am playing over changes, I'll often try and highlight them. But here's the thing about playing changes. We talked about this in our blues streams, is you don't always have to hit the changes. Sometimes it's cool to, sometimes you don't have to. Somebody mentioned Eddie Van Halen and the sometimes out of tune notes. I'm going to go back and see if I can find who that was. Response Audio. There's EVH sometimes played the same shape across all 6 strings. Some pitches ended up being outside the key, but the downbeats were the strong notes from the key. For sure, right? So you don't always even have to play notes that are in key, never mind notes that are on the chord changes, but on occasion I will do that. So here's another one from Rasta Ben 95 says, do you have problems losing your pick while tapping? I don't. I have problems losing my pick when I'm flicking my hair around, when I'm gesturing to the audience. I lose picks loads when I'm singing, because I sing in the bands I'm in. I like to sing with a straight stand. I like to do the James Brown dance, all that sort of thing. I lose picks loads when I'm doing that stuff, almost never when I'm tapping, because I'm such a geek. Like beyond nerd is, when I was a kid, I used to spend forever practicing this movement. Now, this is something you can do when you don't even have your guitar with you. You can just carry a pick around with you and practice getting the pick from here to here and back again. That, if you get good at that, you will never drop a pick again. Let me show you in slow motion what happens when I go from a pick line to a tapping line. If I go like this, we'll try and keep it not too shred-tastic, but if I go like this, did you catch that? Let's go again. Notice that little movement there? And now we've gone back from here to here. So for me, I don't drop picks because I keep it right here in the crook of my finger, and I practiced that movement like relentlessly. I would just carry a plectrum around with me at school and sit and do that. That was like my fidget spinner, if that makes sense. And now I'm really good at just palming the pick and getting it there. I know Chris Buck has talked about not so much practicing at school, but getting good at palming the pick because he plays so much with his fingers. It's a similar sort of thing, I think. But it's a very good question. So, more questions. Here we go. Great one from my friend Craig, who has been taking the mic all night, but that's okay. We like him. He's a nice guy. So how about mirroring 12 frets higher? You can definitely do that. So any stuff that we were playing in one particular octave, you can do it again 12 frets higher. We'd struggle here because I don't have enough frets on the guitar. But if I had 24 frets, I have a guitar with 24 frets. I can't vouch for how in tune it is. I'm just going to have to movie comment, mate. So there we go. If I had 24 frets, I could tap here and do these kind of mirror octaves. I can almost do it in... If I get the pick a whole piece, not quite, but if I get the harmonic there, I kind of could. Oh, there it is. It's a Guthrie trick. But this bit here, we can definitely mirror that 12 frets higher. That sounds cool and is comparatively not that hard to do. So yeah, a very good point there. So here's another one from John Max. Says, how about the thumb position of the fretting hand? Well, that just goes where it feels comfortable as far as the fretting hand goes. So for me, it's normally, if I could show you the back of the neck, it's normally somewhere like here. It's never here really, unless I'm doing some big old stretches. It's rarely up here over the top, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it just kind of pops up there. It's normally somewhere around there where you can just about see it kind of poking over the top. That depends very much on what string I'm on, what part of the guitar's neck I'm on. Up here it starts to come up a little bit more, but that's because my hand starts to angle more. I wouldn't be super worried about the thumb position of the fretting hand. Likewise, I wouldn't be super worried about whether your thumb on your right hand is here or whether it's behind the neck. I would just go with whatever feels comfortable. I always felt like having it on top of the neck, like a little runner, was really interesting and useful, but that became a little more difficult when I started to get into some slightly more extravagant tapping patterns, where I started to use more fingers on the tapping, but that's the thing. But here's a very good question, which is how about muting? Well, muting is taken care of much like we would with a picking line, in that we mute with, let me go to the two hands cap, see if I can show you that. So when I'm tapping up here, if I imagine I'm tapping up on the higher frets, what you'll be able to see, hopefully, is if I remove my tapping finger, look how much palm from this hand I have on the guitar's strings that are not the string I'm playing. If I was to open my guitar up and strum all the strings, like that, we'll do it here where we can see it on this camera, the only one that really comes out, take that away. The only one that comes out is the E string, the string that I'm tapping. Now, that wouldn't necessarily be the case if I was tapping on the G string, for example. Here, the highest three strings will ring out, because I can't really mute those strings with my right hand palm. What I can do is I can mute those with the underside of my left hand. So we get this. The underside of the left hand handling the muting with the highest three strings. The right hand palm is handling the muting of the lower strings. Any strings that are this side of my tapping note, I'm muting with my palm. Any strings that are this side of my tapping note, I'm muting with my left hand, much like anything else. That's generally how we deal with muting in most situations on the guitar, and that's how I deal with muting here. Tony Stramella Band is saying, can you play the same thing with the side of your pick? You could, but the issue with tapping with the side of the pick is duration. So what do I mean by that? Well, right at the head of this lesson, we talked about the idea of tap notes having a rhythm and having a duration to them. It's very hard to keep a good duration with the side of your pick, because little more difficult to actually feel the string. First of all, it's like playing with anesthetic because you can't really feel where the string is. Getting a good clean note that has a long duration to it is a bit of an issue. However, what it is good for is it's good for those like Satriani-esque trills as fast as you possibly can. And it has a particular nervous kind of sound to it. Now, I almost never do this. So my pick tapping technique is not as developed as other styles of tapping. I tend to use a finger, but it is useful for that. Where the pick tapping is pretty cool is if you wanted to do any stuff that is way up here. Because the pick, if you use the edge of the pick, almost acts like a fret. Let me show you what I'm doing here. So if I go to these cameras and I tap here with my pick, I can get an E note because I'm right above the pole piece of my pickup. So actually going back to Craig's question, I could get something up there that's almost pitched. Maybe I've discovered a new thing live on camera. Maybe that's something fun. It's hard to get some duration out of it, but I can get some cool pitches there because the flat edge of the pick is almost like a fret where there are no frets. So that's an interesting application of that, but a really cool question. We'll take a couple more before we go, very, very quickly. Marcin is asking for a Whitesnake jam. We'll do a Whitesnake jam at the end for sure. I've got a cool Whitesnake jam I'm going to pull out. So who else do we have? Oh, Craig says, what about tapping 12 frets higher than the left? Now that's a really good shout as well, actually, to be fair. So what he means by this is kind of mirroring what's going on with the right hand, but 12 frets higher. I get you. So it might look more like this. So again, I'm going to have to move the comment, but if we were to play this with the left hand, for every note we play here, we play its 12th fret compatriot. Weirdly, that's hard when I think about it. I haven't done it enough recently, I don't think, but this business it's quite common in pentatonic scales. Here's a fun trick, by the way. If you want to go from Nuno Betancourt to Sean Lane in one, Nuno Betancourt to Bumblefoot to Sean Lane in 2 frets, is you do this. We take our pentatonic tapping. There's our A minor pentatonic scale. Tap. Tap 12 frets higher. So I'm literally tapping the A minor pentatonic 12 frets higher. Do that like this. And you Nuno Betancourt. Move the right hand taps 1 fret higher than they should be. Play B flat minor with the right hand on your Bumblefoot. Move them 2 frets higher. And here's Sean Lane. Literally, that's it. Nuno. Bumblefoot. Sean. It's a great trick. It is literally a trick. So Craig, yeah, really good shout there, man. Really good shout. We'll take maybe 1 or 2 more questions if we have them. Let's see. Here's one from Ben, RastaBen95. Are you extra careful muting with your fretting hand if your other hand is in the air tapping? For sure. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll even actually drape my index finger if I'm not using it. You'll see me like just quickly dampen these strings with my index finger. Let's see if I can make it happen. It's kind of instinctive at this point, but if I'm playing, especially going in this direction, you can see me sometimes. Come on, behave yourself. I'm trying to find a place where I do this. Not so much. Sometimes it does happen. I've noticed that I do this, but I'll reach across all the strings and just very quickly dab across there. yeah, that's something I'll do with sometimes. So I am a little careful with that, but it's kind of instinctive at this point. We got one. Don't show that to Herman Lee. Don't worry, I don't think he watches this. Best trick of the night, says Sacred God Slayer. I thought you might like that one. So anyway, listen, we're gonna have to call it there, guys, because we've run 15 minutes over. I apologize about the quality of the stream at the start. It resolved itself. Had to do some resetting of all manner of stuff to make that work, and it was a pain in the neck, but then we got it happening. So I promised Marcin a White Snake jam. We're going to do the other White Snake jam, and I'll get some tapping on here. This one's in F sharp. So we've done the John Sykes like Is This Love jam, loads and loads and loads. I got another one which has like shades of some of the other songs on that album on it that I really, really like. So I'm going to play that one. It's in F sharp minor. We'll get as much tapping in as we can. It's not really a John Sykes thing, but you know, I'm saying that he did it in Cold Sweat, and that's an interesting one because I've had to cover that with a band recently that I was standing in for, and man, that's just an athletic thing. It's just how fast can you move your hands? It's crazy. So anyway, we're going to play some tapping stuff. We're going to play some Whitesnake stuff. I will see you guys next week. If you want more guitar lessons, go to guitarinteractivemagazine.com/GI-plus. That is the word plus, not the symbol plus. Get more lessons. I'll see you next week. In the meantime, some Whitesnake for Marcin. Real quick, one of the best and most athletic John Sykes tricks is to do trills and tremolo pick them like this. And that seems like a good note to leave it on. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me. My name's Nick Jennison. See you guys next week. Same time, same channel. Give us a subscribe if you haven't already. This is a preview of what you get with your GI Plus membership. My name's Nick Jennison, and it's a pleasure to introduce to you GI Plus, the brand new lesson platform brought to you by Guitar Interactive. We've assembled a team of the best players and educators in the world to bring you exclusive lessons covering everything from metal to blues to fusion and everything in between. Want to level up your shred chops? Check out How to Play Fast by Andy James. Or how about sweep picking with Rick Graham? Or maybe country's more your bag? Well, how about a full-length exclusive country guitar course from Andy Wood? Interested in learning how to play over changes? Well, members get access to hours of exclusive lessons from Fusion Maestro Tom Quayle. Or maybe you want your playing to sound more soulful. Well, who better than Chris Buck to show you how it's done? Or perhaps you want to learn the secrets of the masters. Well, members get access to over 60 feature-length tech sessions where our tutors painstakingly decode the styles of players like David Gilmour, Eddie Van Halen, John Petrucci, Larry Carlton, Slash, Tosin Abasi, Paul Gilbert, and many more. You get all this along with exclusive live webinars, free backing tracks, competitions, and so much more. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for GI Plus today.